There is a moment in every financial shift when the story moves beneath the surface and reveals a hidden structure. It's the moment when the ETF headlines, the liquidity charts, and even the allocation frameworks begin pointing to something deeper at work. If you watch the first 3 parts of this series, you've seen the edges of that structure already. Today, we step inside it, and the view changes completely. Most investors only interact with the front door of an asset, but institutions need to understand the building that sits behind that door. Buying an ETF is simple. Running institutional flows at scale requires rails, safeguards, and infrastructure built with regulatory expectations in mind. This episode explores that world, the system that sits underneath XRP's institutional era. It's the part almost no one talks about, even though it quietly shapes everything. Everything here is for educational and entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. If clear, no hype crypto education helps you make sense of all this. Hit like and subscribe. It tells YouTube this series is worth showing to other newcomers, and it helps me keep building it for you. If the first 3 episodes showed how institutions behave around XRP, this one reveals the tools they rely on when they go deeper than ETFs. You will see how Ripple assembled an institutional stack around RLUSD, custody, prime brokerage, and treasury systems, and why this architecture matters more than any single price movement. The story shifts from what institutions buy to how they actually operate. By the end, the entire machine will feel clearer and more intuitive. In part 3, we talked about mandates, due diligence, and how firms decide what to buy. Now we turn to the next question. Once they choose to participate, what infrastructure supports them? Institutions don't plug into a token. They plug into systems. Understanding those systems is what makes the broader picture make sense. Every institutional ecosystem begins with a cash rail because nothing settles without stable value moving cleanly from point to point. RLUSD fills that role by acting as a compliant, institution-ready digital dollar issued by a regulated New York trust company. It appears designed for settlement, treasury workflows, and operations that require predictable behavior. Its rapid growth past $1 billion in circulation shows early traction in environments where reliability matters. RLUSD becomes easier to understand when you look at where it is already being tested. Early pilots with MasterCard, WebBank, and Gemini suggest that traditional institutions are willing to explore on-ledger settlement when the stablecoin sits inside a tightly controlled framework. These pilots are not evidence of broad adoption, but they show how Ripple's stack is beginning to interact with traditional networks. That connection between old rails and new ones is the quiet signal worth watching. If RLUSD is the cash rail, Ripple Prime is the doorway institutions walk through to access the digital asset side of the system. Ripple transformed its Hidden Road acquisition into a regulated prime brokerage with execution workflows that mirror what large firms already use. Prime brokerage may sound technical, but in practice, it means cleaner execution, better liquidity routing, and processes that fit institutional expectations. It turns digital asset access into something familiar rather than foreign. Prime's momentum is worth noting. Reports indicate the business has grown by roughly 3 times since Ripple acquired and rebranded it, which suggests that institutions are actively exploring these workflows. Growth alone does not prove where the market is heading, but it reinforces the idea that a well-designed access layer can attract serious users. Prime becomes the connective tissue between trading desks, liquidity providers, and the rest of Ripple's infrastructure. Prime matters because institutions rarely interact directly with exchanges. They need brokers who can source liquidity across multiple venues, coordinate with OTC desks, manage reporting obligations, and reduce operational friction. Ripple Prime appears positioned to provide that role, giving corporates, funds, and ETF issuers a single place to access digital assets in a controlled environment. It's the layer that turns a token into an operational asset. No institutional system functions without custody, because custody is where assets live when they aren't in motion. Ripple acquired Metaco for its secure custody technology and Standard Custody for its regulated trust framework, bringing both pieces under one roof. This combination forms the vault and legal foundation institutions need to protect assets. It blends engineering with regulatory oversight in a way few crypto companies have attempted. Metaco provides secure signing, hardware isolation, and bank-friendly integration, while Standard Custody provides the licensing and governance required for fiduciary responsibility. Together, they form a storage system that can hold digital assets, stablecoins, and tokenized instruments as those markets grow. Ripple's enterprise wallet layer, including technologies like Palisade, adds another dimension by helping organizations manage keys, permissions, and policy controls across prime, custody, and treasury flows. These components create the secure backbone needed before tokenization can scale. Behind all of this sits the compliance perimeter, which is often the least visible but most decisive element. Ripple has spent years securing licenses across the United States, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia to meet institutional expectations. One of the most notable steps is its application for a national trust bank charter, which, if approved, would place Ripple under federal banking oversight. This is a long process, but the direction shows how deeply Ripple is committing to regulatory alignment. Compliance also extends onto the ledger itself. The XRP ledger has been evolving with upgrades that include credential frameworks, selective disclosure tools, authorized trust lines, and clawback features. These enhancements appear designed to make XRPL suitable for regulated tokenized assets while preserving its speed, finality, and deterministic fees. It is a quiet but important modernization of the settlement layer. Another major piece of the institutional stack appears in corporate finance. Ripple's acquisition of GTreasury connects its digital settlement tools directly to the treasury management systems used by more than 13,000 institutions. Treasury desks handle cash, risk, and global liquidity, and they require tools that integrate directly with their existing workflows. By connecting RLUSD, Prime, and Custody into these systems, Ripple is positioning its stack where real capital already moves every day. GTreasury gives Ripple a practical entry point into the daily operations of large organizations. Treasury APIs can move stablecoins, automate liquidity, and connect to custodial accounts in ways that streamline financial operations. Adoption is always gradual, but these integrations make it easier for institutions to experiment without major internal changes. This is how tokenized finance shifts from idea to implementation. At the foundation of it all is the XRP ledger. Institutions don't need to understand every technical detail. They need reliability, finality, and predictable costs. XRPL has delivered those traits for more than a decade and continues to evolve through features designed for regulated tokenization. It remains the settlement fabric for the rest of Ripple's stack. When you line up these components, the architecture becomes clear. RLUSD acts as the cash leg. Custody protects the assets, Prime provides access, Treasury systems connect the flows, and XRPL settles the value underneath it all. Each part has a specific purpose, but the strength comes from how they operate together. It reveals a deliberately constructed engine rather than a collection of separate tools. The broader takeaway is that Ripple did not build a single product. It built a coordinated stack for institutional finance. Institutions need familiarity, oversight, and operational clarity, and Ripple's ecosystem appears designed to provide exactly that. It gives organizations something they can use without needing to adopt entirely new behaviors. This is what makes the stack meaningful. Looking ahead, several grounded possibilities come into view. RLUSD could become a preferred settlement rail for tokenized transactions as corporate treasuries explore on-chain workflows. Ripple Prime may continue growing as an access point for asset managers, funds, and ETF issuers who need regulated execution. Some issuers, including those behind products like XRPC, XRPM, GXRP, or new entries from Bitwise, could theoretically use this type of infrastructure. Nothing publicly confirms it, but the alignment is structurally plausible. And trusts like XRPN show how product wrappers may sit on top of institutional rails as the market matures. These are not predictions. They are measured scenarios shaped by the architecture now in place. What do you think? In the next episode, Part 5, we zoom out to the broader future of tokenized finance. We'll explore the emerging landscape of tokenized treasuries, real-world assets, global settlement networks, and the question that has been building across this entire series, where XRP could fit inside a full institutional settlement layer. This channel is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and is not financial advice. Always do your own research and keep the discussion respectful. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, or sharing it with a friend.